I'm Georgia Lieneman and thanks for tuning in again to Friday's 5 at 5. Central Coast Council is up in arms this week over a decision by the New South Wales Government to establish a local planning panel, or LPP, early next year. The panel will comprise of at least 4 independent experts and will make decisions on sensitive, complex and high-value development applications. Member for Terrigal Adam Crouch made the announcement on Tuesday. He said the new panel was needed to ensure major developments are delivered in a strategic way and that it would bring greater transparency and accountability to the coast planning system. Mayor Jane Smith opposes the decision, saying it will depower council and make it even harder for the community to affect the outcomes of development applications.
So I'm quite disappointed that the state government has made this announcement. It seems to be as a result of the CALDIS review that was done last year, and the CALDIS recommendation was for the minister to consider a joint planning panel in both Newcastle and the Central Coast. We've got a resolution from Council that says we're opposed to that for the Central Coast. So it is disappointing that the minister has chosen to proceed this way.
Development has been, of the last probably year, has slowed right down on the Central Coast. It really has. Unlike other areas like Newcastle, which are thriving, and a few other places of Wollongong and that. So you've got to ask the question, why did we slow down? And that's probably because of confidence within this marketplace of being able to get things through.
So the biggest risk is that it's taken away from our council and therefore it's taken away from our community. So our community is involved with council in developing our planning controls and our strategic plans. Our community has the opportunity to see decision making in action. Our councillors are elected to represent the interests of residents, ratepayers and the community, and really that is the most appropriate process in my view.
I feel that some of the actual councillors within that forum are playing political games and for their own political parties, which I think should be for a much higher level than actually local council. And I feel that those answers and that, yeah, there is a bit of dysfunctionality happening. You can see it.
A man has been charged over his alleged role in a credit card fraud syndicate on the Central Coast. The 45-year-old allegedly bought more than $450,000 worth of goods using stolen cards between July 2018 and April this year. Detectives suspect the man is linked to a ram raid at a Somersby car dealership in March, where thieves took off with 3 collectible Holden Commodores. The man faced Gosford Local Court on Wednesday.
In May of this year, the State Crime Command Financial Crime Squad and the Brisbane Waters LAC Command commenced a joint investigation, Strikeforce Force. It was established to investigate fraudulent credit card transactions. As a result of that investigation, today at 8 a.m. this morning, a 45-year-old male was arrested on the Central Coast in regard to credit card frauds. He's been charged with 22 offences and police have seized approximately $52,000.
This week, the Central Coast became the 31st local government area in Australia to declare a climate emergency. The decision was made at Monday night's council meeting. A number of community representatives spoke at the meeting, calling on councillors to show leadership in establishing real action to avert climate change. Several councillors criticised the move, saying the use of such language created fear and shifted attention away from taking more substantive action to reduce carbon emissions. The motion to declare a climate emergency was brought by Councillor Kyle McGregor, and we caught up with him this week.
I wanted to see the Central Coast step up and combine with some of the other councils around the state, the nation and the world indeed that have actually moved in this direction, because we're all feeling the effects of climate change now. All the science points to it only getting worse, and I want to get us on the front foot and be proactive about addressing some of those challenges. But furthermore, our motion was a little bit different to the standard one that some of the others have done, because we're talking about a just transition and we're talking about high quality, highly profitable jobs and businesses for the Central Coast being attracted here for a modern 21st century economy.
It was a heavy week for the coast's emergency services, with 2 major surfing incidents on opposite ends of the Central Coast. In the first incident, beachgoers pulled a 40-year-old woman from the surf at Umina Beach with head injuries after being struck by a surfboard. The woman was airlifted to Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney and is reported to be in a stable condition. In the second incident, a 19-year-old surfer was rescued after being washed onto rocks at Baddo Bay. The man was also airlifted to John Hunter Hospital with suspected spinal injuries, but is now recovering. Bacon lovers on the coast will be pleased to learn that the region has some of the best bacon in the country. Edwards Family Butchery took out the bronze medal at the Australian Porkmark Bacon Awards for their shortcut bacon. The iconic Central Coast Butchery, which has shops in East Gosford and Woy Woy, is run by Mark Edwards and his sons.
It's Australian pork. They have a Porkmark competition, which is for bacon, ham, boneless hams, long and short rash bacon. And it's Australia-wide. We came third in the state for our short rash bacon. Last year we came second, and 4 years ago I came first, so I'm actually going down. Butchery has changed dramatically in the last probably 20 years, more so in the last 10 years. A lot of people want products now they can just take straight home and put straight in the oven or in the pan, and it's ready in 20 minutes, half an hour. Our pork's all Australian pork. Whereas a lot of the companies like, can I name them? Woolworths and Coles and all the other major supermarkets. If you read the label on your bacon or your ham, not so much your ham, your bacon, any of the boneless products, it can be as little as 10% Australian product, which is basically the water and the packaging.
Following up on the reports that our production crew may have enjoyed one of Mark's signature Bushman steaks and sausages last night. Last week, there was overwhelming interest in our story on the success of Blue Haven School being named Australian Primary School of the Year, as well as Principal Paul McDermott being named Australia's Principal of the Year. If you'd like to see the full video news story, it's now loaded on the Coast Community News website. Turning to sport, and the Central Coast Mariners have progressed through to the last 8 of the FFA Cup with a victory over Brisbane Roar on Wednesday night. Goals by Matt Simon and Sam Silvera were not enough to separate the sides after 120 minutes of football, but the Mariners prevailed 4-2 in a penalty shootout.
Murray looking to link up with Matt Simon, who could be behind. Oh, that's got to be a penalty, yeah. Alex King had no doubt. Scott Neville from behind on Matt Simon. And the opening goal of the night. Simon, plenty of power, straight down the middle. Jamie Young couldn't get a touch at it, and it's the Central Coast Mariners who lead thanks to their skipper.
The Mariners were missing 3 of their regular centre-backs, Galifuco, Tonic and Kirol, but they did play new 20-year-old signing midfielder Gianni Stensnes. Stensnes put pen to paper this week on a 1-year deal with the Mariners, and if his recent form in the Under-20s World Cup is anything to go by, we have a lot to look forward to.
3 players up in the penalty area. Again, it depends on where it breaks. Oh, that is an utter rocket of a goal. A fantastic hit. It's got to be one of the best goals of this Under-20 World Cup of 2019. Wow! That's the reaction down there. It's a sensational hit.
In rugby this week, the Gosford Red Devils took on the Lakes in the elimination semi-final at Woy Woy Oval. Gosford dominated from the kick-off, running 2 first-half tries to go to an early 14-0 lead. But the Lakes hit back just before half-time with this try in the 36th minute. The Lakes then missed this opportunity early in the second half. And then Gosford finally put the match beyond doubt midway through the second half with this try that caused tensions to boil over. The full-time score was Gosford 29, the Lakes 14. Gosford will now play the major winner of this week's major semi-final between Terrigal Trojans and Arimba. Finally, Ninja Warrior-style obstacle course racing will hit the coast next month with the annual Raw Challenge 12-hour enduro. The event, which will be held in Doyleson on the 21st of September, is one of Australia's biggest obstacle course events of the year and will attract a big field of athletes and beginners alike. The course features over 55 obstacles laid out over an 8-kilometre circuit. Ross Barry took a crew out to the course for a training run this week and somehow seemed to be the only person to keep dry.
So Raw Challenge is located on 20 hectares of land. The course at the moment is an 8-kilometre course for our major events. An 8-kilometre course, 65 world-class obstacles. We got plenty of mud. We got plenty of water, the slides, the balance beams, the climbing obstacles, you name it, we got it here.
It's really good to have a course like on your home ground. This is kind of my baby. I don't want to lose. Like, this is, even though it's not maybe the top race in the world, it's one of the most important to me because it's home ground and I don't want anyone from any other state coming and beating me. This is my thing.
In front of Mud Mountain, I've got Rebecca here who's just been through this obstacle. Rebecca, how hard was that?
Pretty hard.
What's the key to getting through it?
Big legs and help from your teammates.
Steve, you're here with a couple of your children, but we weren't sure whether you were trying to help them or trying to drown them in the mud. What was it?
Well, I think the best thing is with this is that you can get away with putting your kids in the mud and you don't get in trouble for it.
Have you done a roll call to make sure they all came out the other end?
Yeah, we're only down 2. It's all good.
Aaron, I noticed that you've been giving some of the competitors here a lot of grief from the sidelines as they've gone round. Have you actually done the course yourself?
Absolutely, that's where all the banter comes from. You only get that right if you've done the course multiple times, which I have. Usually a couple of times a week with the private bookings, I get to go around the course.
What's the hardest event?
Definitely the 12-hour enduro. That'll test you physically, no doubt. The 12 hours, 7-kilometre track, 55 obstacles, but for sure emotionally. It's going to take everything you got.
That's all for this week. I'm Georgia Lieneman. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and we look forward to seeing you again next week for Friday's 5 at 5.